Welcome to Noob To Pro, a series where I teach you all the math concepts you need to know to become a math wizard. This episode is about ratio and proportion. And buckle up because this is going to be a very long episode. So, first, what is ratio? Ratios are comparison or a distribution, you can use any of them, of two or more values, and those two or more values are being compared from one huge number. So, what this does is that it compares numbers using the value or amount in the numbers. So the symbol, the colon, that is the symbol that we use for ratios. So for example, 4 to 3 means that out of the sum of both, which is the total, I said that we are distributing or comparing two or more values from a big value. So this is the total, which is the big value. So 4 to 3, the big value is 7. So we are distributing 4 on one side and 3 on the other. So this is like distributed. We are dividing the number into like two parts. So this is even simpler to understand once I give an example. So let's say that I have 20 apples and my friend over here has 12 apples. Okay, so I have 20, he has 12. So the ratio of the amount of apples that we both have is simply 20 to 12. And you can simplify these ratios by dividing them by common factors. So we can turn this into 10 by dividing by 2, and we can turn this into 6. And then we can turn this into 5 by dividing by 2 again, and this can turn into 3. And now a ratio has become 5 to 3. So this is how this is the meaning of ratios. So now let's get started with some questions. So before I explain how you solve this, I'm going to just explain two parts of ratios. So the first part, which is 50 in this, that is called the antecedent. This is the spelling. Antecedent. That is called the antecedent, the first number. And the second number, it is called the consequent. It's spelled Consequent. So those are two parts of the ratios. So what is the ratio of 50 and 35? So what this question is asking us is we have to simplify this ratio. So 50 and 35. So the way we used to do this is by just putting them into fractions. Remember how we used to simplify fractions? If you haven't, you can just watch that video up above. So we have 50 over 35. This is how those fractions used to look. And we used to cancel and then simplify. So that's just what we're going to do here. So we're going to divide both of them by 5. So this will become 7 and this will become 10. And that's it. We already simplified it. There's no more common factor. It's 10 over 7. But that's not the answer because we have to put it into ratio terms. So we have 10 to 7. And that is our answer. And that's basically what ratios are. So now we have what is the ratio of 9 and 27. Very simple. We're going to put them like this. Now divide both of them by 3 to get 3 to 9. And we're going to divide them by 3 again to get 1 to 3. And then we're going to put them into a ratio form, and that is our answer, 1 to 3. So that is our answer. We are now going to move on to another type of ratio question. So in that we were just simplifying ratios, and now this is like a question that will help us to do proportions, which is what we're doing next. So in this, what it's saying is that if I have 20 apples and the ratio is 2 to 3, how many apples does the other person have? So this sounds confusing, but you have to understand what the question is trying to say. So I have 20 apples and the ratio between my apples and some other person's apples is 2 to 3. So how many apples does he have? So the way we say this is that 2 to 3 is the ratio. So now we have another ratio which is going to be 20 to something, and we need to find that something. So the way we solve this is by just doing this. We have 2 to 3, and then we have another ratio which is 20 to something. So what we do is we do 3 times 20, and that gives us 60. Okay, and now we divide it by 2, which is what we have in front. And when we do this, we get the answer of 30. So the other person has 30 apples. Now we will move on to the next question. If I have 14 apples and the ratio is 6 to 15, how many apples does the other person have? So we will write the ratio here, 6 to 15, and I have 14 apples. So the way we will do this is by multiplying 15 and 14. This is actually a decimal question. This is going to give us a decimal answer. So 15 times 14. So what we can do is we can do 15 times 2, which is 30, and we can do 30 times 7, which will give us 210. So we have 210. Now we will be dividing 210 by 6. So what we can do is just divide this by 2 and get 105, and divide this by 3. And now, oh wait, this is not going to give us a decimal answer, because 105 is actually divisible by 3. So what I can do, I will just divide it how we normally do. This is going to give us a 3, 1, then divided by subtract 15, that will give us 35. So the other person will have 35 apples. So that is our answer. So now we will move on to the next question. Oh wait, no. So now we are doing proportion. So what is proportion? So proportion is another comparison. So before ratio were comparisons of two values. Now proportion is a comparison of two ratios. So we compare ratios with proportion when both the ratios are equal to each other. So these two previous questions were like proportion, because when you do this, I'll just go back. We had the ratio 6 to 15. We got the answer, which is 14, and the other one has 35. So this is like another ratio, and they both are equal to each other. So that is basically what proportion is. Two ratios which are equal to each other. So now this is how a proportion looks. Over here we have the first ratio, over here we have the second ratio, and we don't use the is equal to sign. We use two of the colon symbols. So now there are parts of this. The first two, the most important parts, are the first and last numbers, and the second and third numbers. So the second and third numbers are called the means. Okay, these are called the means, and these two numbers are called the extremes. So now if you have two ratios and they are put in this proportion, and you have to check whether they are in proportion, what you do is you multiply the extremes and you multiply the means, and if they give you the same answer, then the ratios are in proportion. So 1 times 14 is just 14, and 2 times 7 is also 14, and 14 is equal to 14. So these two ratios being in proportion, this is a true statement. It is true. Now there are 4 more parts. This is called the first proportion, this is called the second proportion, this is called the third proportion, and this is called the fourth proportion. This is used when we don't know one of them. So when we have the other 3 values and we don't know the first one, we have to find the first proportion. When we don't have the second one but we have the other 3, we are finding the second proportion. Now for third proportion, it becomes a little bit different. When you don't know the third proportion, you only get the first and second proportion, and there's going to be a question for that. It's not too hard. And if you don't have the fourth proportion but you have the other 3, you are finding the fourth proportion. So now let's get started. So in this one, we don't have the first number but we have the other 3. So what we do when we have to do this, we will use the statement, the multiplication of the extremes is equal to the multiplication of the means. So we have a question mark here, and the question mark is equal to, when we multiply the means, you get 6 times 9. So over here we have 18 times this question mark. So we will do 6 times 9, which will give us 54. Now we don't know the question mark, but what we can do is this 18, which is being multiplied, we can bring it to this side and then it will turn into division. When you bring something from one side to another, it changes its sign. In this time over here, it was being multiplied, so over here it will be divided. If it was being added here, it would be subtracted here. So like that, we divide it by 18. So let's say that it was actually 18 plus question mark. Then it will go over here and we will subtract 18, but this is for another video. So now we will divide it by 18. This will give us 3. So the question mark is just equal to 3. So now we will do the same thing. This will be with the second proportion. So we know that the multiplication of the extremes is equal to the multiplication of the means. So we have the question mark times 64 is equal to 8 times 72. I'm just going to solve this over here without a working. So 8 times 7, that gives you 56. So sorry, not like this, we're not doing it like this. We have to do 8 times 2, and that's just 16. And 8 times 7, which is 56. So that when you add it up, over here there's a 0, so 0, 7, 5. Sorry, not a 0 here, this is a 6. So we get 576. So we have 576 over here, and now we are dividing it by 64. We move it over here. So now we have the question mark is equal to 576 over 64. So now we will solve this. So what I'm just going to do, we're going to just keep adding 64 to itself. So 64 plus 64 is 128, and we have done it twice. Now we will just do 128 plus 128, which is 256. Now we have done it 4 times. Now we will add 256 to 256, which gives us 512, and that is now 8 times. And now when we add one more time, we get 576. So that was a total of 9 times. So the question mark is equal to 9. That's our answer. Now we will do one more example. 7 to 11 is to 63 to what? So I'm just going to explain how you read these questions. When you are reading ratios, you will say 2, 7 to 11. And now when there is a proportion, you will say is 2. That's how you read these questions. So 7 to 11 is to 63 to what? So we have 7 to 11 is equal to, so we will just do the multiplication of means in this one. So we have 11 times 63 is equal to 7 question marks. So 7 times a question mark. So now I'm going to show you a trick for multiplying by 11. When you have to multiply by 11, what you do, just put a 0 here, write the number. So we are doing 63 times 11, so you just put the 63 here. Now add. So 3 plus 0 is 3, 6 plus 3 is 9, and then we have 6 here. So that gives us 693 as our answer. So now we will bring the 7 over here, we will divide it by 7. And if you notice, 693 plus 7 would give you 700, and that was just 7 times 100. So this is 7 times 99. So the answer for this is 99. So x is, so this question mark is equal to 99. There we go, we solved it. Now that third proportion that I said is a little bit tricky is here. The way third proportion works is it's like 2 ratios that are combined together. We are going to be seeing how you combine 2 ratios. So we have 8 to 16 to what? So what we have is, we will say that this first number is A, the second number is B, and the third number, which we don't know, is C. The way this works is A to B is in proportion with B to C. So the way we will solve this is, we will try to see what this is. So we will replace this with 8 and 16. So we have 8 to 16 is to B to C. We know B is 16, so we will put 16 over here. And now we can multiply the means. So when you do 16 times 16, let me just solve this. 16 times 16 would be 256, I believe. So 256. But actually you don't even have to do this multiplication. There's a much simpler way to solve this. 8 is just 16 over 2. So we can just do 16 times 2 to get the answer over here, which is just going to be 32. But what you can also do is 16 times 16 and then divide it by 8, and that will give you your answer. So we will do this one more time. So we have 18 to 24 to what? So we will again use the A to B is to B to C. So we know that B is 24, so we will put 24 on both of these sides. Now we will put the A as 18, and now we have to do 24 times 24. Now these values are insanely big. What is the trick that we could just do? we can simplify this ratio. 18 to 24, we can divide it by 6 to get 3 to 4. Now this is much simpler. We can just put the proportion sign, put a 4 here. Now we will find what we get here. So for this one, we have 3 to 4. And yes, I don't think we will be able to do it like this. I'm just going to work with 18 to 24. So 18 to 24 to 24 to what? So I will do 24 times 24. So I'll just use the space that I have up here. 24, 24. So 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 2 is 8. With the carry it becomes 9. And now since this is 2, you put 0. 2 times 4 is 8 and 2 times 2 is 4. So we get 6, 7, 5. 576. So we put 576 over here. And we have to do 18 divided by that. So what we can do over here, we won't be able to just keep adding 18. So what we can do 180, which is 10, which is 18 times 10. Now we can add 180 to this to give us 360. So that is now 20. Now, can we add 180 to this? Yes, we can. So after adding 180 to this, I'm just going to add 100 first. We get 46. Now 46 plus 8 will give us 54. So 540. So that's 3. Now we have 36 remaining, which is a difference of 2. So we will put 2 here, and that gives us 576. So 576 divided by 18 is 32. So the answer is 18 to 24 to 32. That's our answer. And now the final thing that we are doing in this lesson, we are combining two ratios. So if the ratio between the apples I have to my friend's apples is 4 to 5, and the ratio between the apples my friend has to his friend is 7 to 6. So what is the total ratio between all three of us? So let's say that I am person number A and my friend is person B. So I have 4 apples and the ratio is 4 to 5. Now his friend to his friend, so my friend to his friend, the ratio is 7 to 6. So when you combine two ratios, it becomes a little complicated. The thing that you have to do, you multiply these two. That's what we will start off by doing. So 5 times 7, that gives us 35. So we multiply 5 by 7, so we will multiply this by 7 to get 28. So now we keep this in the ratio, and now this ratio over here, it is also out. So we will increase this to 42. We will do 6 times 7, and that will give us this. So this is the ratio between all three. What you can think of it as, we have a ratio 4 to 5 and the ratio 7 to 6, and over here this is my friend and this is also my friend. So we have to find the LCM, which is the lowest common factor, the lowest common multiple between them, because we have to make sure that both of them, they have the same number. So we just simply multiply them, and that gives us 35, and we multiplied on this side by 7. So I will be multiplying this by 7. So over here we had a 4, so it became 28, and I actually made a mistake. Over here we multiplied it by 5 for this ratio. So we will do 6 times 5, which gives us 30, and this is the ratio, 25 to 35 to 30. I made a small mistake. This is our answer. So now we are done. Now this is the test. First you have to combine the ratio 4 to 7 and 6 to 5. Then you have to check if the ratio 4 to 7 and 28 to 63 are in proportion. And lastly, you have to simplify the ratio 80 to 128. You know the drill. Comment down your answers and I will give you feedback. Now, episode 18, exponents and mean proportion. It comes out this Wednesday, which is the 24th of September 2025. Thanks for watching.